Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Uninformed Fan. We got a great show for you today. Game one of the Lakers Nuggets last night did not miss. We're going to break that down. Becky Hammon making ripples in the WNBA. The NBA lottery was last night. PGA Championship week, Gap Wedge Wednesday with the boys. Let's get into it. I'm Tyson, as always, your host. With me, my good friend, and just getting it done at a normal pace, Mr. Jeffrey. How are we doing today, Mr. Jeffrey?
I'm doing great, Tyson. And listen, for those of you who don't know, if you haven't worked with me before in a restaurant, okay, I typically move slower than everybody else. I do. I don't rush around. I don't run around like a chicken with my head cut off. It is what it is, right? I work at the pace that it's comfortable to me, that keeps my guests relaxed and not seeing that I feel like I'm overwhelmed no matter what is going on. The pace does not change. So I get a very hard time from some friends of mine about the way that I move. And just like I've told a manager before, it's not my fault that I can do a better job than everybody else by walking half as slow, you know? It's just not my fault. Or half as fast, I guess.
I was gonna let you go with it. I don't know. We'll see. And, I don't. Hey, what are you gonna do? It's just one of those things where it's Jeffrey, and while he says that he doesn't portray that image to his guests and stuff, now Jeffrey in a side station or behind the scenes is a completely different Jeffrey in those times.
I mean, I'd say there's still a nice genuineness that comes through, but I mean, you're not going to be. There's certain whataboutisms and words and iterations that are not supposed to be spoken in front of guests that can be spoken in the comfort of a cone cup with some soda in it. It's just very different. Like I'm anyway. Yeah,
nothing like the cone cups, bro. Nothing like the cone cups.
I'm not rapping Drake and everything in front of my table, but as soon as I walk away, there might be a little line going through my head.
Maybe. Well, let's get into it. We got a lot to break down before we bring in the boy, I guess, today for Gap Wedge Wednesday. Shout out to our producer who was just landed in Chi-Town, where the NBA lottery was held last night. Gonna go enjoy some of the wonderful pleasures that Chicago has up there. Please make sure you stay safe up there, Jay Dizzle. So we did have the Lakers Nuggets. The Lakers Nuggets last night, and what a game it was.
Real quick, before we get into this, did you see where they were talking about Ja Morant should be traded to Chicago because he'd fit in a little bit better?
I'm pretty sure I sent that on the group chat, yes. Yes. He would be a great fit in Chicago, is what my favorite one, though, was the one that I can't remember who sent it out or what movie it was. It was the Wayans brothers. And he's got the rocket launcher, and he's like, they're like, nobody.
Don't be a menace?
Yeah, nobody. And then Ja on Instagram Live, he's got the rocket launcher behind him.
Jeez, dude. Like, it's just.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So we had the Lakers Nuggets last night, and again, what a game. The first half by Jokic was absolutely insane. The shots that they were throwing up, the pace of the game, it really looked like the Nuggets were just going to completely dominate the Lakers. And as I said, on the group chat and everything, that it just made the Lakers just kept it right there, though. It got to 20 at one point, then a couple possessions later, it's right back down to 14. They never really fell out of it. And then lo and behold, here comes the second half of making little adjustments. And with, I think it was like a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go, it's a 3-point game. Nobody ever would have thought that. I definitely didn't think that. I think the biggest conversation, before we get into break it down, is, and this was talked about by the announcers and everybody else, is just Jokic and the MVP talk. It went right back to it. And let me just put this out there as far as this MVP conversation goes. If Jokic played in New York, if Jokic played in Chicago, if Jokic played in Miami or a bigger, or LA, a bigger market, I think you would have seen him got his third MVP. I think the fact that he does play in Denver and not a lot of people get to see him perform day in and day out, that I think that hinders his abilities. And I'm going to say, yeah, I know you're going to roll your eyes, but watching that man and that first half versus what I saw from Embiid in Game 7, there's no way that man shouldn't have been MVP of the league.
Joel is MVP of the league. He won it. He won, and I do not want to get into this because I get yelled at by every person in our group chat, and I'm by myself on an island out here.
Well, I think we
saying
both
that Joel Embiid-
kind of said that the MVP thing is more of a participation trophy at this point. It's not
It's more
necessarily
of a
who
feather in the
is.
cap.
Yes, correct.
It's like when you're building a resume, like unless you win 3 or 4 championships, the MVP does not really matter, right? Because if you're at that caliber, you're probably going to be a Hall of Famer anyway. But it matters in terms of how we use measurables to rank guys
And bonuses.
in our own arguments.
In contracts,
Sure,
bonuses, things
sure,
of that
yeah,
nature.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
Sure, you get contract bonus.
it was kind of the same though as my father-in-law. We were talking about it yesterday. Said he goes, well, you know, another reason why they probably didn't give it to him as a third, because he gave it to him a third. Now he's in Larry Bird talk. Right now we're getting up to the point where one of the greatest to ever play the game. If you win 3 in a row, right? I mean, that automatically elevates you into a different category of speaking. And I did hear some of the mainstream media talk about that as well, as about could they actually give him a third in a row and what that would do for his legacy and how we portray him. But again, what a first half, you know, watching him throw up some of the shots. Anthony Davis even turned around and was like, what? I mean, whatever, man. I mean, if you're making that, you're making that. Another great game by Anthony Davis as well. Those two played their hearts out, man. It was nice to see Anthony Davis actually play a full game. I think Joker got a little tired at the end. I think he came out with a lot of energy, and that man was all over the court. I think, you know, as the game went on, he got a little tired. He got a little lackadaisical. We saw a few turnovers there at the end. But what a game. And I'm going to give you my last little thought before I turn this over here for you. And I know I kind of prefaced this a little bit. Lakers did lose game 1, but I felt that they actually won that game mentally because they were down 20. The Nuggets could not miss a shot. And yet, with 2 minutes to go, they were right there in a one-possession game. I think they come out of this with all of the accolades as far as into their locker room. I think that the game plan moving forward is going to be even better. I think you're going to see them figure out how to shut Joker down. Mitchell was going nuts again as well. But we'll see. What were your thoughts, my man?
It was very entertaining. The Nuggets couldn't miss in the first half. They're up 18 points going into halftime, and you know you're kind of questioning everything that you thought was going to happen in this series. Now, second half happens. The Lakers were kind of just able to match them pretty much. You know, is what it felt like. I do think that the Lakers figured something out in the second half. Obviously, you erase an 18-point lead. LeBron has a chance to tie it up with 46 seconds left, misses the 3.
Dunk.
You know, the scramble for the ball, the Aaron Gordon. And there's a lot of plays that went into it that Lakers just didn't execute down the stretch, which I would anticipate going forward they won't be much better at because they've been great at it the past 2 series that they've had. But couple things that I saw. One was, I've been saying it all series, you got to put somebody else on Jokic when he's going to be at the top of the key. And then when he turns to back down, then you slide over Anthony Davis. Second half, you saw Rui Hachimura, especially in the fourth quarter, do exactly that. And against Rui, actually, if we're going to look at it, so 6 plays against Rui Hachimura, 2 turnovers, 0 for 2 on the field goals. His points per play were 0.67. Okay, against Anthony Davis, 15 plays, 1.53 points per play, 10 of 13 from the field, and still 2 turnovers. Now, what I'm saying is that when AD gets drawn out, that opens everything else up. And like we said, it's a rotation, right? They rotate around Jokic. He is the center. He is the gravity that pulls everybody in. When you're able to allow AD to float a little bit and play passing lanes, it becomes so much easier to play defense. So I think the Lakers learned that. I think it'll be interesting going forward.
Hachimura had a great game. So impactful
fantastic.
From the time they came in. A lot of energy. And I do think, you know, obviously they did switch that in the second half. And I think that, you know, Joker was starting to wear down at that point because he did just exert so much energy, not to knock anything. I was really surprised that, you know, Jeff Van Gundy kept saying, Aaron Gordon, get out from the baseline. Get out from the baseline. You're letting Anthony Davis just camp down there, taking away the driving lanes. And they did that for almost the entirety of the fourth quarter, and it caused a lot of problems for Denver. And they just never made the change. And, you know, to your point, like, it's, you know, Anthony Davis on the top of the offensive, but if you leave Anthony Davis in the baseline on the defensive, I mean, you're going to have block shots. You're going to have very contested drives and, you know, kickouts.
And rebounds.
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing I did notice, because this was probably the first game that I've watched of Joker the entire game, right? He gets so many rebounds, and it's not because, I mean, it is because he's tall and athletic. It's because he's the only one that crashes the boards. He is always in there. And if he doesn't get it, he's sprinting down back to try to get back. Like, whereas you see the rest of the team's already halfway back. I mean, obviously he had, 21 boards. He had a triple-double in the first half. Ended with 34, 20, 21, and 14. I mean,
insane. You remember when we talked about, what is a win against Joker? And I said, well, the number one thing you cannot allow him to do is go off for 30-point triple-doubles, much less 30, 20, and 14. That's in ridiculous territory right there. Anthony Davis got to look in the mirror a little bit. I know you had a great offensive game, but we need you to show up on defense.
Well, I thought he did pretty well, and obviously the points don't show it, but they did a lot of double teams and stuff, especially to start with Joker, and he was so quick at finding the open guy, and he had a lot of those assists in the first half where he was making great passes. He was doing the bounce pass between the legs for layups, kicking out for the threes, and they were making the shots. And I think when we saw later in the game, they realized, well, we can't really do that because we're giving them wide open shots. Mitchell's burying everything, and they switched it, and obviously that helped. I was just really surprised that the Nuggets. You get in that little bit of a comfortable lead. They just didn't make the adjustments they did. I felt like, again, they were sitting there playing prevent defense with fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go, down a touchdown. Just got to let them go down and score. But
yeah, I think the Lakers figured some stuff out. Great game, though. It was very entertaining to watch. If you decided to stick in and see it through, you were rewarded in the very end. So
absolutely great game from the start. And tonight, so we have the Celtics and the Heat. I'm repping the Boston jersey today for my family and for Rachel over there. Stay strong over there. Don't let Justice beat you down. So we got Boston -8 at home tonight. I think that's a lot of points. The Heat are fairly rested. Jimmy Bucket's ready to come in to beat down. Obviously he's been there. This is just a rematch that we've continued to see over the years. 8 points is a lot for game one, in my opinion. Your thoughts?
Hemi Buckets, baby. Hemi Buckets. They've had some time to rest now. Boston coming off an emotional 7-game series. I think this is a big trap game for Boston. Can Jason Tatum come out and be the Jason Tatum that we've seen, or will there be a letdown thinking that you're going to go against the Miami Heat and go ahead and steamroll them because you think you just beat what was in my opinion, the best contender to keep you from getting to the NBA Finals again? This seems like a trap game to me. Give me the Heat +8. Give me the Heat money line. Give me the Heat first half. Give me it every which way. We will be putting our hard-earned money on the Miami Heat tonight.
Oh boy, here we go. So as we saw the fallout from the other one, we did talk. Doc Rivers was let go. We kind of talked about that on the last show in regards to not necessarily that we agreed that he should be fired, but
I don't think we talked about Doc. We didn't talk about Doc. We were talking about Monty Williams.
No, we talked about Doc. I said based on what has happened that he should be fired. Based on what we've seen.
Okay. But not he hadn't been fired yet.
Correct. So so we kind of prefaced a little bit based on the way that the league was going and as far as who got fired, Monty Williams over there, the Bucks coach, it's a winner. So I said I'm assuming he's going to get fired. He did get fired, obviously, along with the other NBA coaches in the league. Brought up a lot of questions, especially in our group and all around. And we talked about Doc Rivers and his accomplishments and how, he is a good coach and he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. He's considered widely among the NBA as one of the best coaches ever. And I do believe he's only won one chip, which, okay, whatever. Again, there's more that encompasses this just besides winning an NBA championship. But here's why I think Doc Rivers has failed a little bit. And I did happen to see JJ Redick talk a little bit about this. And this just goes through everything in life, especially with your management, whether you're anything in your career. As things evolve and people change and culture changes, everything changes. This isn't, you've seen the Mike Krzyzewski's leave college basketball. You're seeing a lot of the old college basketball coaches leave. A lot of that has a lot of that has to do with the NIL stuff and having to actually buy players nowadays. And a lot of it has to do with the mentality of this society. And what I'm trying to talk about is the me first mentality. That I'm the best player on the team. As Jeffrey was talking about Jordan Poole, what do you want me to do with 10 minutes? Type attitude. And when you construct these teams, and especially teams filled with multiple superstars, to be able to get all of them on the same page to play basketball the way that it is supposed to be played is an absolute impossible mission in my eyes. Unless those players just have the utmost respect for you for some reason. But if you're one of the older coaches, it's very, very tough because they don't know who you are. You haven't been around. And I think that's just a little bit, I think some of these older coaches are going to have problems connecting. And when we talk about divas, we talk about, let's be honest here, LeBron calls his own plays probably. I mean, LeBron is the coach of the LA Lakers at the same time as a player. And there's a few others out there that are like that as well. When Steve Nash, for example, went to Brooklyn, I don't know if it was Kevin Durant or if it was Kyrie. One of those said that he's not my coach. We don't need him here. But that's the mentality that coach walks into. How is that coach ever going to be successful when, to your point, Jeff, what we talked about respect as far as, well, you're just a sharpshooter, what have you done in the league type things. And you got all of these divas, and yes, I'm calling them divas, that think that they're the best players in the game, that they know everything. I think it's just becoming almost impossible to coach these players anymore, in my opinion. Should Doc have been fired? I don't know. I mean, like we always said, well, who else are you going to get? Who else is going to have the resume that Doc has?
Yeah, I think my problem is the entirety, like you touched on a little bit, of the mindset of the NBA, and it's become, listen, Monty Williams was a coach of the year the year before. Now, he didn't like DeAndre Ayton, and so whatever happened, DeAndre Ayton obviously didn't play for him. We saw the way DeAndre Ayton looked; it was pretty bad. But they basically say DeAndre Ayton got him fired. Is kind of the way it is because he didn't agree with him. I think organizations need to look at players and understand, and only get players that are going to buy into what they want to do. As an organization, we've seen this happen. We see it in college football where you have huge turnover in programs because a new coach comes in and they have to weed out old players who have a bad mentality that they don't want on their team. In my opinion, this is going to come down to the same thing in the NBA. And I look at it in terms of organizations that have continuously had continuity. A team like the San Antonio Spurs, right? They have let Greg Popovich have up and down seasons. Mostly he's been one of the best coaches in NBA history, but they've also allowed him to, sometimes not be as great. And they've had the patience enough to understand that there's fluidity in the game. You're going to have your ebbs and your flows, your ups and your downs, right? But at the end of the day, you believe in your guy and you believe in the kind of players that you bring into your organization. And if you bring them in and you find that they don't fit, you ship them off immediately. I know Chad's in the waiting room. We can probably bring him in if you want to talk about it. But, because he is a Spurs fan. But, it's just, to me, it's egregious. If you look at Budenholzer, if you look at Monty Williams, you look at Doc Rivers, those three coaches combined have the most wins in the past 3 years than anybody else in the NBA, right? But they all three got fired because we say championship or bust.
That's what I was getting ready to dip into. So going back to 2017, Mike D'Antoni, Houston Rockets, coach of the year, fired. Mike Budenholzer was 2019 for the Milwaukee Bucks, fired. Nick Nurse, 2020, Toronto Raptors, fired. Coach of the year, fired. 2021's Tom Thibodeau, so he's still there. 2022, Monty Williams, Phoenix Suns, fired. So, going back to, what we were talking about before, is the coach of the year just a feather in your cap award anymore? Does it not? It obviously doesn't hold value to the franchise.
Those are all phenomenal basketball coaches too.
And they all got fired.
Like, they're all really, really good basketball coaches. Some of it doesn't make sense to me. You're basically allowing the inmates to run the asylum is what you're doing. Because
whoa. You can't say that anymore. Can't use that analogy. That analogy has been used in the NBA, and the hammer has come down.
Inmates running the asylum?
Yes.
Insane asylum?
What, are all the NBA players convicts?
What are you talking about?
Your comparison that you just made. You're letting the inmates run the asylum, right? The inmates.
Okay. Whatever.
But yes.
I mean, Sure. Yeah.
But
I don't
yes.
know.
Well, it is. As the players have fought for more power, this is what's happening. The players run the league. Who else runs that league? The players run the league. They determine who they want for coaches. They determine LeBron James builds his own teams. He ships rookies. He does whatever to feel like. And I'm not saying this is wrong. Let me just preface that. Let's just say that he builds his own team. He picks his own coaches. So at that point, what autonomy does the owners and we can't even say owners anymore? What does the people that say that
The governors.
that write the checks? What do what say do they even have in this anymore? I mean, like you said, you have the Brooklyn Nets when Steve Nash got hired out there. They came out and said, we don't want to play for this guy. We don't need this guy. I do believe it was Kyrie Irving. I'm not 100%, but they said we can coach ourselves. We don't need him. What? And that's fine, but I mean, that's where you're going to. The more you give them an inch, they take a mile. That mentality. It's just, it's disgusting, like you said. And then to go back and learn about Mike Budenholzer and see what he dealt with during those playoffs.
He lost his brother.
Like in the middle of it, obviously that had an effect on him, and then still to get canned afterwards. And then we were talking about, I heard when the Milwaukee Bucks are looking for the coaches search, right? They bring it in, and then the last step is they have to meet with Giannis to make sure that he puts his seal of approval on the coach. Okay, well, I understand the mentality. He's one of the, if not one of the best players in the NBA. I understand the mentality. But when you give a player that kind of power to say, yeah, this guy is good, this guy's good enough for me, do you think it's a conversation of, yeah, I'm willing to listen to this guy? Or is it one of those things where they're in the meetings being like, hey, look, I'm excited to have you on the team, but I have my own thoughts and ideas, and I want to make sure that you listen to them and incorporate them into your game plan? Because we see that in the NFL, correct?
I think I would just walk in and be like, oh, I would just want to make sure that, I have, this is my plan for you and how we can grow and what your role is going to be on the team and so on and so forth.
I just think
I think it would be.
I think it's just weird that you have the players basically interview coaches as well. But I mean, until something, this is what we're in. This is the deal that we're doing now, right? It's players first, coaches second, and if the coaches don't win, even though it's not the coaches out there playing the game, the coaches aren't up there running the pick and roll. The coaches aren't out there making the turnovers. The coaches are out there calling the plays that they think gives the team the best chance to score. That's it. And here we go. Another one bites the dust. The other thing out of 76ers that we got to cap off before we move on to the lottery results is James Harden is apparently going to opt out of his player contract. And the rumor is he's going back to Houston for a max deal. Now, I remember when Harden left Houston. And to my knowledge, it wasn't the sweetest ending. It was kind of rocky waters, was it not?
Wasn't great. He wanted out. He wanted to be traded. He didn't want to go through a rebuild. So, was what it was. They got rid of him.
They got rid of him on his behalf, but now he's like, let's come back.
He went to New York. Yep. And then, or he went to Brooklyn. I'm sorry, Brooklyn. And then, traded to Philly. And now he wants to go back home. He loves Houston, I guess. He's a guy who likes, he thrives in that, going out nightlife. Going out to the gentlemen's clubs that he loves to frequent so much. And, listen, they've added some interesting pieces on that team. Jalen Green is really good, very promising superstar. So, maybe he got some assets and then he goes back, gets paid.
Let's bring in Chad on this because I'm unaware of this exhilarating nightlife in Houston. So let's bring in Chad here. Chad, welcome to the show here. We got a few questions that we hope that you can help answer for us in relation to the Houston nightlife, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Spurs here. How you doing today, my friend?
Good. How you boys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. Doing great. So we're just talking about the James Harden coming back to Houston. And Jeffrey was talking about how he enjoys the Houston nightlife. He has his clubs lined up. I never thought of Houston as the big party town and the big going out town. Obviously, I'm incorrect here, right?
Well, I don't know much about the Houston nightlife because I was never really there when I was old enough to partake in the things that I think James Harden is talking about.
I don't think James Harden's
So-
talking about it. But yes,
Well,
that would be
maybe
Jeffrey.
But that's why he wants to go there, obviously, you know.
I just thought it was funny the way that he basically pushed his way out to get the hell out of Houston, and now, because let's be honest, he's on the tail end of his career here, and he's going to bring the tail end back and come back home to the old Houston Rockets.
Yeah, I don't get it myself, but you know, James Harden's not really all there, I don't think so.
Supposedly, I mean, they say that Houston is like a muggier, dirtier version of Miami
Well,
when it comes to like.
I used to go
strip
to
clubs
I
and
used
stuff.
to well I used to go to Houston once a month. I did that for about 4 or 5 months in a row, and the place I stayed was right next
What were you doing out there for once a month?
business.
I'm sure it was.
Business.
In that hot Miami muggy lifestyle.
I don't know. The only thing that was really prevalent to me in Houston was the homelessness. Like it was rampant. Like driving down the streets, it kind of reminded me a little bit of California with the tent cities and stuff like that. So I don't know. I only went to one place and then made to dinner and then back. So it wasn't like I was exploring the city or anything of that nature.
Yeah, the only thing I've really done in Houston is gone to games. So
Yeah.
I don't really
Chad,
explore the nightlife either, so.
We were just talking about the NBA coaching stuff, and I know me and you had a very back and forth about it. What are your thoughts on guys like Budenholzer? Budenholzer, obviously, Doc Rivers and Monty Williams getting fired.
I mean, my take on that is it's just these guys get no shot anymore. Like if you can't win with the players that you get, the GMs, the owners, I don't know who's making these calls, but like these are great coaches that, I mean, most of them are great coaches. But
You would exclude Doc from that?
Well, I think
You would
I think
exclude Doc from that great coach comment, Chad?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
because
you don't
I mean,
think-
the
you don't
only
think-
time
you don't think he's a great coach?
I do not. The only time he's ever done anything is when he had the very first big three assembled, and no one knew what they were doing to stop that at the time because no one had what he had. He had Garnett, Pierce, Allen. He threw in a young Rondo.
Young Rondo,
so
Tony Allen,
everyone-
Kendrick Perkins, Glenn
Yeah,
Davis.
like, so
that
he had
team was ridiculous.
He had a big three and good role players. So
Wasn't Posey on that team too before he went to the Heat? That was like a big deal. Like James Posey.
James Posey, yeah, I mean,
He was on that team, and then he flipped and went to the Heat when LeBron and Bosh and D Wade joined up
yeah.
to basically take them down. So
I think that Doc Rivers is like the Clayton Kershaw of the NBA. Great regular seasons, does all the
Yeah.
things he needs to do in the regular seasons, but just doesn't show up in the playoffs.
I can see that.
He's
That's probably exactly it.
he's the Clayton Kershaw of the NBA coaching.
on that.
Well, I know that we brought you in to talk a little bit about Houston Rockets, but let's move on to your San Antonio
Houston
Spurs. Your San Antonio
yeah.
Spurs winning the lottery
Congrats.
last night. Congratulations. I'm a little bit behind on this prospect, but I watched a little bit yesterday, and they're saying that this kid is the best prospect ever to come through the NBA. We're talking ever. We're talking better than LeBron James as far as prospect right off the rip. They're talking about him being MVP caliber in 2 to 3 years from coming into the NBA. You got to feel excited about that.
I'm very excited. And what the Spurs have done is they traded away Dejounte Murray a couple years ago, got rid of Podol, got rid of those guys who are going to have to pay soon, and got draft picks for them. So they're going to build a nice young core. And if they can draft as well they used to, then it might be sky's the limit for the Spurs.
What a
for
great
few,
coach, huh?
few years.
What a great coach for him to come up under. I mean,
Exactly. I just hope he doesn't have the mindset. I hope he has the same mindset as all these other guys like Tim Duncan. That's the one thing Popovich said he loved about Tim Duncan is that he could coach him. He could be the hardest on his superstar, and everyone saw that. And Tim Duncan just said, yes, sir, and did what he's supposed to do. So hopefully this kid has that same mindset and he's not sensitive and can take a take a little slashing on the words, you know.
Well, I will
And,
tell you the fact that he's coming from international gives him a better opportunity.
Exactly, and that's one thing I love about that. So, I mean, you look at his last two number one picks: David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Hall of Famers, champions. Hopefully, it just keeps working out that way.
It's definitely got a great opportunity as far as that goes. Now, I know, Jeffrey, you had a couple Magic picks going on this year. The Bulls had a 1.8% chance, and I do know if they got into the top 4, they were going to be able to keep that pick from the Magic. Unfortunately, that Magic pick from the Bulls, I do believe, dropped at like 8 or 9, I do believe. And then your remaining
11.
pick, 11? And then your remaining picks, which you had a 9% chance of, fell to 6. But
Yeah.
you still got to feel good about getting a couple picks in the top 10.
Really?
Not really. Just a very
No,
just a very pessimistic man when it comes to Orlando Magic.
Listen, the only thing I could see is that we get like a 3-and-D guy, or we draft a big at 6, and then we take Grady Dick at 11 because we need shooting. But they need a rim protector somehow, and I don't know where it's going to come from. But they need
Bring back Mo Bamba,
and they need somebody to knock down threes when they have the opportunity to do so. I will say this: I do love the Spurs roster. I think adding Wembanyama in there, you already got Zach Collins as a big, but he plays more as a traditional. You do have a guy like my guy from Florida State, Devin Vassell, who had a breakout year this year, was really good. Keldon Johnson was really nice as well too. Devontae Graham at point. I think the Spurs have potential. I do think it'll take a few years for Wembanyama to develop. He's just so small right now. And these guys that he's going to be going against in the NBA, this isn't France. No offense to France, but anyway. Ian's got a saying, it popped into my head, and I realized I probably shouldn't say that. So
he's
what I will
learning.
say is that that's how we edit ourselves right there.
That's
what I
right.
will say is that obviously the NBA player coming up through college, they already have weight training most of the time. They've already been through workouts and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts. We'll see if he has got that dog in him, or if he's just 7'5" with all the talent in the world, and ends up being Kevin Durant.
Who's the other beanpole that came out last year? It's like Collison or something. White guy, like just beanpole.
Sequoia?
No, it was the kid from Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Okay, State.
You want to talk about needing to put on some weight? That dude.
Yeah.
Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren.
Chet Holmgren. Yeah.
Chet Holmgren.
Slow morning right now. Good God.
It was your internet. It's just affecting you. Good call. Jay Swin, shout out to Jay Swin on his phone in Chicago, coming through as the producer always should. That guy as well. I saw a highlight film of him working out, and I'm just like, man, dude, the wind blows the wrong way. That kid's going off the court. I mean,
and you already got foot issues, and now you're going to try to add on a lot of weight to get there. So I'm very happy with the Magic's pick last year.
Well, sticking with the Spurs here, before we move into Gap Wedge Wednesday, former assistant coach Becky Hammon has made the news in the WNBA, as it appears she's bringing the boys mentality on over, and it's not going so well. I know, Jeffrey, you had a lot to think about this one. I'm going to turn it over to you and give us your little take on the Becky Hammon situation. Break it down for us, for those that don't know what's going on.
So there was a situation. Becky Hammon, head coach of the Las Vegas Aces. Obviously, they are the reigning WNBA champion. So there was a girl on their team. I forget her name, but she was the 6th woman of the year, back-to-back years, and then ended up starting last year and was an all-star last year. So shout out to her. Did very well. Now, she ended up getting pregnant. And Becky Hammon basically said to her, she said, listen, it's very selfish thing for you to do. We're in the middle of the season right now. You're going to miss time. You probably should have thought about this or tried to plan it out better if you could have. The girl didn't like that, went public with the comments. They ended up trading her to LA about a month and a half later, shipped her out of town, got rid of her. And then she said that she fought a lawsuit against the WNBA, basically for, I don't know, whatever it is when you judge somebody based off of some kind of medical condition, is what she claimed. And Becky Hammon has been suspended 2 games by the WNBA. Now, this is not the first time this has happened. And what?
They lost their first round pick next year.
Okay, they lost their first round pick next year too.
Big
So
stuff.
they don't have a first round pick until 2020. 5 or 6.
And the girl's name is Dearica Hamby.
Dearica. Yeah. Hamby, yeah. Listen, I don't think Becky Hammond did anything wrong personally. I know I'll probably get fried for saying that. But
I don't think she did either, sir.
And to me, it's like, yes, she is correct in saying that there was a selfish thing for her to do to get pregnant. Now, I'm never going to say nobody should stop from having a family, and children are, in my opinion, the most unbelievable thing that you can ever do in your life. There are such joys and just amazing things to create and look at and develop into this world. But if we're going to keep it 100, I do want to say that I know it's apples to oranges, but Ja Morant has not technically broken any laws. Now, has Ja Morant been very selfish in his acts that's going to negatively affect the team? Yes. And I don't want to say that, toting a gun on Instagram Live and having a baby are at any way related, but in this instance, they are both selfish acts that are affecting the team, and that the team is going to have to pay for repercussion-wise.
I just don't see.
My thoughts.
I just don't see how you can, fault someone for having a baby while making $85,000 a year.
I don't fault anybody for having a baby, but that doesn't mean why can I not say that that's a selfish thing for you to do to have that child?
Well, let me.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but on the same token, this is what the whole women versus men go, because men don't have to deal with this, right? Because the women have the babies. Well, now the women have a sport, so her sport runs over the amazing span of how many months? 7, 8 months of the year. 5, 6.
So it's only a few, right?
I want to say it's like 4.
It's like 3 or 4, I think. Yeah, I don't think it's 5.
How many months?
I mean,
hold on. I get you.
No, I was just gonna say,
step it up.
Like, if Sue Bird had her way, they could just have men play in the WNBA, and then we wouldn't have to worry about pregnancy.
Well,
May 19th through September 10th. Okay, is what it, and then the playoffs are September 13th through October.
5 months.
So we're talking about 5 months.
5.
Right.
5 months.
So 5 months. There's 12 months in a year. So when would a woman get pregnant? When would be
get knocked up in the middle of the season?
Yeah, you would get pregnant in the middle of the season and have the child in the off season when you have 7 months off.
But then will she be able to come back soon? Well, I mean, I guess she could train a little bit, and who knows? Why are we talking about this? And anyway, the main reason why they got all the suspension and everything brought down on them was because of the tampering with money, right?
No, they were making offers that they couldn't really do to entice people to sign.
Yeah, because of the salary cap.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. I don't think telling Dearica Hamby, hey, listen, this is a selfish thing. Maybe next time we plan this out a little bit better is that big of an issue.
Well, I think maybe if those were the exact words, then maybe. But what were the exact words?
It doesn't matter. Like, if she can't take some words like that, then she doesn't really need to be on a team anyway.
Interesting. Like, WNBA, here we are. I wonder what the percentage of lesbians are in the NBA or the WNBA.
Oh,
well, that would
talk about that.
That could be that would be a big deciding factor on who gets pregnant or not.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean?
You can't have a child if you're lesbian.
Your other
woman.
Your other partner could. Well, hell, if you're a man, you can have a baby now. So I mean, who knows?
I mean, ask the dude that's in the WNBA. Doesn't she have a baby with her wife?
He's talking about
Bradley Grinder. Brittany Griner. That's her name, not Bradley. Sorry.
All right, moving on. So, Chad, we do have a great golf tournament starting this week. It's obviously a major in the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
PGA Championship this year is being played in Rochester, New York. We are playing at, I believe, Oak Hill. Is that correct?
Yes, Oak Hill Country Club.
What are we looking at Oak Hill? What's the yardage? What are we thinking here this week? Oak
Hill's a par 70, just under 7,400 yards, so it's pretty long. Going to be bent grass this week. It's up in the northeast. So I've heard it's going to be a little chillier early, so ball won't be flying as far, so that adds a little distance to it. But it's a Donald Ross course. It's been redesigned a couple times, but I was seeing that when they did this last redesign, they were trying to make it as close to the old Donald Ross course as possible, but they did just have to pull out about 600 trees because it seems like they just built this in the middle of a forest because there's trees everywhere. And this week, the rough is going to be long and thick. So you want to stay out of that as much as you can. I heard it's
like U.S. Open conditions out there is what we're looking at this week.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at, I would say you're probably not going to get a lower than 6 to 8 under. It's going to be a tough one.
Us golfers who are not the best love to see because we want to see, mayhem where it looks like they're playing like we are. But
exactly.
In fact, we would shoot 150,
yes.
in those same conditions. But it makes us feel like we could. I had this argument.
I could break 150.
Do you think? Well, okay. So I was having this argument one time with TJ, and I forget which major. I think it was maybe one of the opens from the past few years. It was the one that they were all struggling at, right? A couple years
like
ago.
Went like 2 under.
Yeah, something like that. And TJ asked me, he goes, do you think you could break 100 on this course? And I said, I think I could break 100.
Now, the tips.
Now,
no.
Let me say this. The reason is because I'm not trying to make birdie on every hole, right?
Like you're just trying to make bogey.
My mentality is completely different. So I'm hitting the ball to areas where I think I can get up and down easier from, where as opposed to a professional is trying to make birdie on every single hole.
Well, no, they're not. First of all,
yeah.
And second of all,
at least par.
Second of all, the courses that are designed like this aren't going to have room for your 100-yard fade to get into the proper area.
Have a 100-yard fade. Okay. Moving on. I just thought it was an interesting thing. What are we looking at this week? So obviously it's going to be a long course, long rough, possibly cold conditions. Ball might not be flying as far as they would like it to. Are we looking at guys who boom the ball, who drive the ball? Are we looking at straight guys off the tee? What are we looking at long iron players? What are we kind of targeting here?
Well, it's got a lot of dog legs, like that are precisely like in certain areas, so that you need to place the ball in the fairway in certain spots if you want to have a chance at going for the pins. The greens are actually going to be smaller than what they're used to, also, because it's Donald Ross. He likes to race his greens and have runoff. Like if you miss in a certain spot, you're not going to be on the green because it's just going to roll back off, and you have to be able to scramble. You have to be able to scramble, and when you're hitting greens, you'll be better off if you can hit it in a certain area of the green with it not being able to fall off. So you're going to have to
precise iron players, kind of
precise iron players, good drivers of the ball. Distance is going to be helpful, not needed, but if you can hit it further, you're going to have a better chance. Like I said before, putting it in certain spots of the fairway so you have a chance, and scrambling around the green is going to be huge. So you got guys like, that's why JT is a 2-time PGA Championship winner. He's great around the greens. Same with Brooks Koepka. Sometimes they lose their drive, so you don't want to do that here. It's pretty much going to. I feel like it's going to be a cream of the crop kind of tournament. Not going to be a lot of, big long shots here. The PGAs used to be like one of the better chances for outsiders to have a chance of winning, but it's gotten to where the big guys have been taking over lately. So I feel it's going to be the same way.
I was sitting there and I was doing some things and looking at lineups, and it looks like we are going to have our friend Paulie Parpletz join us today as well too, live from the airport as well. If we want to pull him in, I was looking at just some guys, and when I'm trying to build lineups, this feels like it's so top heavy.
It is.
It's that's like I just can't convince myself of any of those like mid to bottom tier guys for some reason.
Right. That's the thing, is that like seven of the last 10 winners of the PGA Championship have been in the top 15 of the world golf rankings. So, it's tough to be an outsider, but you just want to get. You're putting lineups together like that, you want to get some guys that you think can just, squeak into like a top 10 or something like that when you're looking at those mid-level guys. and you hope that the 3 to 4 big guys you can put in your lineup can get you top tens as well, and pick a winner, obviously.
Well, we want to welcome in Paulie Parputz over here, live from Austin Airport, I believe. Are you walking through the terminal right now, Paul? Paul? All right. Well, we'll see if
We have lost Paul.
Or not. We have lost Paul. He's lost in the sauce in Austin already. Anyway,
Easy
so Chad,
to do.
yeah, it's not that. I've never been to Austin. I do look forward to one day going. I know that Paul has got some things lined up that he's doing this weekend that I'm very jealous of.
Great city.
Going to Joe Rogan's comedy club with Rogan performing, I think is going to be a pretty cool thing for him to be able to partake in while he's there. Back to golf real quick. I do want to say, who do we like that we're targeting? We mentioned a lot of the top tier guys. Who do we think in the top? Give me a top, a middle, and maybe just a flyer that you like that might fit your model that you didn't really think about before.
I'm looking at guys like, obviously Rahm plays his game. It's going to be hard to beat him.
Yep.
Rory, I just don't believe in him. Like what I've seen from him lately, this is perfectly his type of course.
He doesn't seem to believe in himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you see his latest comments?
I did not, but I did see that he talked to Tiger, and Tiger said he saw something in his swing, and he spent about 5 hours with Tiger at his home course during the week or last week or something like that. So he might have found something with that. But we'll see.
I don't know what the exact question was, but it was something along the lines of, "Do you feel your career has been successful?" or something of that nature. He said
I saw that.
If he never wins another tournament again, that he still feels good about himself, which he should. I mean, great career.
I mean, he's definitely a Hall of Fame golfer. So,
but man, I mean, just to think about, when you see Rory in the field, just to think about him never winning again. I mean, golf is such a longevity type sport. He's stayed relatively healthy throughout his entire career, but to think of him never winning again, that's kind of, I don't know. It's different. It's different from what you've seen in other sports. When other interviews, like you stick an interview, if you ever win, I plan on winning 5 more championships. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of a weird thing where he's like, if I never win again, I consider I still had a great career and stuff like that. It kind of caught me off guard.
Kind of scares you if you're trying to back him to make money too. It's like, does he really want to go out there and win anymore? Like, one of those ideas. So. He might be a fade this week if you guys get matchups.
It's interesting because his driver's just been so sporadic lately that I feel like he's been scrambling a lot and, kind of, I don't know. It's been a very interesting watching him play the other week. It just, I don't know. It was a tough look, And
watching like him on the green it's so like, what are you doing? Like I've never seen him putt so bad, but I guess I'm just seeing like certain putts or whatever where he's missing like a 3-footer for some reason, but I've seen him putt a lot better before. But the stats say he's still a decent putter, but not from what I've seen with my own eyes. But
yeah, definitely interesting. Any other guys that we like? We mentioned obviously if Rahm's on, Rory is obviously going to be a chalky play this week as well too. Guy like DJ maybe coming off of a win over there in Live at Tulsa, rolling into the PGA.
I mean, he might be able to pull off what Brooks did at the Masters, but I don't see this course letting up on the Live guys like Augusta, because Augusta's more of a horse for the course type of thing. If you look at the guys that were up there, it's the guys that have played Masters very well, won them before, except for Brooks. Games. Like that's the 3 Live guys that did well were the ones that have already won on the Masters, or it was Brooks Koepka, who has great knowledge of Augusta. So I don't see this one being like that. I feel like the PGA is going to come to the top in this one. You might get like a 1 or 2 in the top 10, maybe, but I don't feel like a Live guy is going to win. I think it's going to be more I'm going to be looking at the probably 18 to 40 range of someone that's going to win if it's not Rahm or Scheffler. Guys
who do we like in that range?
I like Finau. He hits the ball straight and long. Homa's starting to prove that he can win on the East Coast. He's got 2 on the East Coast now with Quail Hollow and Potomac when they changed the What was it? I can't remember what it was a few weeks ago, but it was at Quail Hollow, and then they moved it. Another guy, Matt Fitzpatrick, is flying under the radar right now. He hasn't played well beginning of the season, but he's starting to come along, and he's perfectly fit for a PGA because he won the U.S. Open last year. It's very similar to U.S. Open style, so I feel like those would be the top three that I would go with.
I keep on coming back to guys like Xander Schauffele and Colin Morikawa. Now, Morikawa is tough for me just because he's been so bad around the greens lately. And driver has gotten a little bit more sporadic than he originally was when he first came in. But what about some of those guys? And also, I guess my what about pick this week is going to be, what about a guy like Cam Young?
Cam Young is interesting because he can bomb it. As long as he can his short game is there and he's hitting fairways, then he has a very good chance. There's a reason why he's still only like 20-1, even though he is in this kind of field. And when you're talking about Xander, I love Xander. He plays Donald Ross courses very well. He's great at Eastlake. I'm pretty sure he has one of the best scoring averages at Eastlake, which is Donald Ross course, and it's where they play the championship. So that's another great pick if you want to throw him in a lineup.
Heard.
You know who I'm going to be looking at deeper into the board, where we're talking about sharp iron play, is old Lefty at plus 5,000.
I appreciate that pick. If you're just donating money.
Old Lefty coming back in, dropping bombs and throwing darts.
If you want to look at some guys a little deeper, there's some guys that do have some good Donald Ross and slight course history is Justin Rose and Adam Scott. Those guys are playing
Always
pretty
solid.
well right now.
It's like they always make the cut, too. Like, they always make the cut. They always get top 20.
I feel like you can make some money there. Yeah, like you said. And another guy, Chris Kirk, is playing very well right now. And I feel like he could be a dark horse to definitely get you paid. Not guaranteed money, but I could see him getting you paid if you have a top 10, top 20 with him.
Be nice. I know there's a guy who Paul really likes, and I think Paul's trying to get in here to speak, but obviously wrangling
what's
toddlers,
going on with that?
Wrangling toddlers in an airport.
He's still on the plane, apparently.
Waiting to deplane is probably a tough ask. But there's a guy who Paul talked about who he really likes, and a guy named Hayden Buckley, who he thinks is a good sleeper. Any thoughts on Hayden Buckley this week?
I don't know much about Hayden as much as Paul does. I'm gonna try to find him real quick on the model.
Yeah, he loved his driving accuracy. I guess it was him, and then Keith Mitchell has been great around the greens as well too. Are great off the tee as well, but just
Keith Mitchell's
around the greens. So
Keith Mitchell's the type of guy that his irons have to be there for him because he's a great driver of the ball. Like he can hit it far and accurate. It's just sometimes he loses his irons and his short game is not great at all. So he's got to tighten up those irons.
Great on total driving and also really good on approach. So if the guy putts a little bit, makes a few putts here and there, you can see a guy sneak up. Might be a sneaky play. If you're looking for kind of a lower price guy on a DK or a FanDuel, I think that's probably a pretty good option for you guys as well too. And make sure you keep that in mind. Straight from Paulie Parputts in Austin.
Yeah. One guy I feel like on the live that could do something is Patrick Reed. Everyone loves to hate him, but the guy he's amazing around the greens still. So if he's hitting the ball in the fairways, he should be fine. But that's about the only live guy I see doing anything.
They said the same thing at the Masters.
That's a totally different type of course.
But you still said the same thing.
I did, but
by the way, nice hit
about the horses.
Nice hit last week on Jason Day.
Oh, thank you. That's
once again
quite a few in a row there, huh?
Quite a few in a row. Who do we got this week? Give me your pick this week. Stone Cold Lock.
If I had to go, I would
Lock.
go. I would go with the top three. I said Homa, Finau, Fitzpatrick. I feel like if if one of those three is playing great, then they're going to win, obviously. But I think that they, on the course like this, one of those three could hang with Rahm and Scheffler.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I love Finau's game coming into this as well too. I love his mental space, where he's at, his head space. If I'm going to stick a pick in there as well, I give me some Tony Finau. I like a little Tony Finau, Xander Schauffele, and
I do
obviously,
like this. I like the Xander pick too.
what's
And
not
maybe
to love about a guy
maybe
like
his
John
buddy
Rahm?
Patrick Cantley. You know,
It wa-
Cantley's
Maybe I'm
he's a good Ross guy too.
and Cam Young too, a guy who's I believe it's his home course. Now, me and Paul were talking about this the other night about how it actually doesn't equate that well when it is your home course to winning tournaments. But
Yeah,
you know, it is a nice little notch to have some course knowledge as well.
exactly. You know, when you like this just last week at the Byron Nelson, that Marty Dow or Do or however you say his name, DOU, it was in the top 10 for a while until Sunday because it was his home course. Like, but no one's ever heard of him.
Real quick,
So
I'm going
you
to
never
rattle
know.
off Paul's picks for you real quick. Obviously, the boys have a great streak going. Paul is all in on Rory. He thinks that little lesson with Tiger is actually going to be the game changer for him. I'd love to see Rory get back, man. Like, I just feel like he's lacking so much confidence for a guy who's got like all the tools, you know, like he should be winning every tournament. You know, just got to turn around, get good mental headspace. He obviously loves Fitzpatrick. He's right on the bandwagon with you with that. And then his two punt plays or longer plays that you might like in a FanDuel or a DK lineup are going to be Taylor Pendrith and also Hayden Buckley as well too. So Rory, Matt Fitzpatrick, Taylor Pendrith, and Hayden Buckley locking in for Paulie Parputts.
Oh, what's that, Jeffrey? Oh, yeah, I do have a long shot as well. Thank you for asking. I'm looking
It
at
was Phil Mickelson.
no.
What?
That's not a long shot to win. That's just a one to be there. I'm talking about Thigala. Give me give me
You know
Thigala
what?
in my lineup.
Someone is starting to listen.
I love Thigala from weeks and weeks ago. Ever since the Masters, honestly, because that's about the first time I started paying attention to golf this year. I just like him, man. I like his style. I like his swag. I like his game. I love everything about him. Give me some Thigala as the super dark horse over here. I'm sorry, as the dark horse. And give me Phil Mickelson to come up there to round out the top 10.
Let's say Thigala's not a super dark horse anymore because he's been playing so well.
Well, he's still plus 5,000 at the same odds as Mickelson, so.
Interesting question for you, Chad. Let's say Phil makes a top 10 this week.
Does
Now,
he get flowers?
The two majors that, and I'm just hypothetically talking about this because I'm just curious as to what the opinion is. The only two tournaments that we've seen Phil play against the best of the best competition then would have been the Masters and the PGA, and he would have got top 10s in both. Where do you think world golf ranking wise that should then slot him in at?
I mean, it's hard to tell with
I
how
know
they.
I know it's a
ranking and
tough
everything.
argument, but it's just, you know, I just thought about it and, you know, decided to throw it at you real quick.
I mean, I guess you got to keep him in the top. I mean, where did he end up now after the Masters? Like 50, something like that?
He was somewhere in that range, yeah.
I mean, I guess if he gets another top 10, maybe go him in the top 30. I mean, but
Okay.
is he really better than the top 30? I mean, I guess he is proving it by being top 10. So, but he's not
Golf
playing
is-
consistently on the same courses these guys are. So
Yeah.
you can't really tell, you know?
And golf's so
Maybe-
fluid too. It's like Phil could, you know, these are professional golfers. They have great weeks all the time. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And
But-
then they also have bad weeks. And
right.
like before Phil left for Live, what was he doing? He
Phil
won
won
the
a
PGA. He won the
PGA.
PGA out of nowhere, but he hadn't done anything else other than that for years. you
Phil
know?
is ranked 80th
He-
in the official golf world rankings right now, 2 spots ahead of Dustin Johnson.
Yeah. So
That's
I
an
mean-
interesting piece. I think
Because
that we
he
can all
literally hasn't
agree
done anything.
that the official world golf rankings are in shambles as far as when it comes to worldwide rankings and rankings off multiple tours, to include the DP Tour, the PGA Tour, the Live Tour. I think that we can agree that the Live kind of threw a big wrench in that.
Well, yeah, and the way they do the ranking is just like it's so sporadic. Like one tournament you get this many points, the next tournament you get this many points. It's like you get awarded for winning the bigger tournaments. I get it, but when like certain guys that are garbage have a great week on a Masters or something like that. You know, it's like
Okay,
they get
hold
vaulted up,
hold on
and
here.
they're not really that good.
We're not gonna call Phil garbage here.
I wasn't referring to him. I was saying in general.
Okay, all right. Well, you just said these garbage players that all of a sudden do good in the Masters.
I said someone, but I wasn't saying a certain person. But I'm just saying in general. Like you say, you have a William McGirt gets a second in the Masters, and he's going to go from 350th in the world to 85. It's like such a big jump that they can make because of the point system the way it is.
Well, it's because you're playing against the best in the world at that point. I mean, Masters is invitation only, right? So I mean, it's the best of the best.
Let's unmute
this
Paul
is
right
the
here.
best field ever.
See if we can get an opinion out of him, because I know he's very passionate about the World Golf Ranking as well.
He said that he was not available for unmute. But let me. I asked him, and he said, "Do not unmute me."
He just said I'm in the terminal.
All right, well, he is unmuted. He is. I don't know either. He is unmuted.
Paul, you there?
Fellas, I'm here if you can hear me.
Yeah,
sweet.
Wow, you're coming in smooth, kid.
We can get some real knowledge now rather than just us idiots talking.
Paulie, what up, baby? How's Austin?
Yeah, so this terminal's popping.
Hey, get some barbecue in that. When you leave, get some barbecue in there. It's actually really good.
I heard the tacos are sick here too.
Yeah,
Horatios.
I'm looking at Mad Greens right now and the peach tortilla.
The peach tortilla is good.
Yeah. So, regarding official world golf ranking, if there was a way to quantify 3-round events, those on the Champions Tour, so PGA Tour champions, would also receive world golf ranking points. So there was a time a few years back, and even right now, where guys like Mickelson, Urich, Retief Goosen, I think, is playing on the champions right now. Those guys are playing at a high level, but they're not accruing world golf ranking points because there isn't a way to quantify 3-day events. So that's the reason that the live guys aren't getting points. It's not because people think that they're not good anymore.
I don't think anybody said that. Well, Chad said that.
Yeah. So right.
Whoever, as I retract, yes, Chad said that. Those garbage players on live, those oil chasers.
I guess I did say that. But
you did.
Whatever.
Yeah. So I guess my point. Are we there?
Yeah, you're live. You are live.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. So the jump that these guys will get if they end up finishing high, like the way that Phil did in the Masters, the other live guys in the Masters in the top 5 or 10 or whatever it was, they jumped that high, like Tyson said, because of the quality of the field. So these events that these live guys are getting to play in, or deserve to play in, they will accrue the points that they deserve by finishing at a high level.
Correct.
So it's unfortunate that there aren't more events that they can get into, but the reason most of these guys claim they went to live was to play less golf and still make a living doing it. So
right.
It's a trade-off. So you only play 14 events a year. You get paid $100 million. And now you're worried about, it's a talking point really. And it's a bone of contention between the guys on the live and a way to distract from the fact that, it's a choice.
I don't think that what you're talking about, like the $100 million guys, are worried about it, because they're already getting into these tournaments. They're not worried about that. I mean, Phil's already in these tournaments. Dustin's already in these tournaments. Brooks are already in. It's for the other guys, right? The if you want to call them the
Taylor Gooches,
the supplemental players that are not in that ranking to be able to get into some of these major tournaments. And how would that path look to be able to allow these guys to play in it? But to your point, like I said, if it's a 3-day event and the DP Tour is 4 and there's no way to quantify the points, then you know what? That's a choice that you made by going over to that tour.
Right.
Am I-
'Cause, I mean,
am-
if they could put the 3-day events in here, Bernhard Longer would be top 5 in the world rankings because he kills the Champions Tour all the time. You know, so
Right, and
Yeah,
that's
a lot
not
of
really
it is
the world
technical.
rankings that we want to compare ourselves to, right? I mean, we don't want
exactly.
saying Bernhard Longer's the number 5 player in the world. Well, that's because he's playing against
The
X,
other
Y, and Z.
60-year-olds.
Yeah, and maybe that's why the point system maybe is outdated. Maybe it's maybe there's a way to revamp the whole thing that it's not point based. You know what I mean? Maybe it's I don't know what that would be, but if the official Golf World Rankings would like me to devise a system, I'd be happy to commandeer my talents to help you out.
I think that'd be great. Tyson.
There-
Thank you.
There is another ranking system out there, and it escapes me. It's golfstats.com or something like that.
I mean,
In
I
any
think
case,
I think there would be a way that you could calculate the slope of the golf course versus the rating of the golf course versus your scoring average against those ratings, regardless if it's 3 or 4 days, to be able to devise some kind of a number out of that to basically prove on the higher slopes and the higher handicap that you're still shooting and playing at a high level. In regards to a handicap scoring system type stuff, that where you could be able to figure out who's actually because just like you're saying, like if Tiger Woods during his hiatus, right, when he was absolutely at his, if he decided to take a half a year off and only play one tournament, I think we would all concede though he's still the best player in the world. He just didn't play to accrue the points. So I think there's a way that they could figure it out, but I think there's a lot of old heads that don't really want to mess with it either.
The whole new math thing kind of throws them off then because you can't figure out the algorithms.
Maybe we can get AI chat GP on this.
Well, the way that the official World Golf Rankings are determined is by results. So it's just results over a 2-year period, and then once you add a result in, you eliminate another one. So if you were, like you were saying, if Tiger took a year and a half off, once the 2-year period moves, he'd lose 6 months of it. So if those 6 months he had finished, top 5 in all of them, then yeah, he'd drop a little bit. But if those were a 6-month period of his maybe not as good results, he should maintain the way that Cam Smith is. Cam Smith hasn't dropped very far in the World Golf Rankings for not participating in any 4-round events other than the Masters.
Well,
So
by
it's-
looking at it, like I'm looking at the rankings right now. So you have your, you have your finished position, the amount of points you won, and then they weight the tournament, whether you get the full amount of points or not. The Masters is a fully weighted tournament at 1-to-1. So you got 50 points. So he jumped from 425 to 72. Because
Right.
he got the 50 points. But if you look at some of the other further down tournaments, the weight calculates. So, there's some of them that are 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. So even if you had the 100 points, you're only going to get 40 out of them. So it's a very complicated system. I think we can all agree with that.
Does it show what last week's was at the Byron Nelson?
I'm just looking at Phil in particular. But yeah, who played? John Rahm played, right?
No, Scotty Scheffler would be the guy closest to the top.
All right, so let me grab him. We are loading. The last one that they have updated is the Mexico Open at the moment,
Okay.
and
So,
that's a
So-
fully weighted. That carries the same weight as the Masters.
Yeah, but they don't put out as many points for it.
Yeah, we
Like
got.
the Masters, you get like 600 if you win. This one, you only get like 300 or something like that.
He got
So
about
Those are
18,
FedEx Cup
points.
though.
Oh, whatever.
He got 18 points for this one on the official gold, and he got 1-to-1. But this is what I think a lot of it, like all of the PGA tours are all almost 1-to-1s. Interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess
So-
now we know why.
So if you look at last week, right? So last week the Live played in Tulsa, and Dustin Johnson won it at 17 under. The
Another resort course.
the PGA played at the Byron Nelson, and what was it, 23 under?
Yeah, resort course.
Okay, so both resort courses, and if you add another day onto Dustin and you average what he did over the course of 3 days,
He'd be at 22.6 under.
and there you go. So very similar courses as far as difficulty goes, and the guy at
Very
the top
similar numbers.
is about the same. But when you look at number 48 on the leaderboard for the PGA, and then you look at number 48 on the leaderboard for the Live, we're playing against very different fields.
Oh,
It-
absolutely. Absolutely. There's
The
no
arg-
doubt that the PGA is deeper. The Live is very top heavy.
Yeah, and the talent at the bottom, maybe your bottom, we'll say 10. Your bottom 10 on the Live is Corn Ferry level at best.
Mm,
I don't know if I'll
Yeah.
go that far with you, but
Well,
Pat Perez. Pat Perez should not be on any tour.
Pat Perez is as
He's
he's an
gonna be the worst.
also ran.
I think we could pluck a couple players from each league and say this guy probably shouldn't be on the tour.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. A
What would an example of that
very interesting can of worms that Jeffrey has opened here.
And then he just sat
For
back
it.
and listened.
Yeah, they just sits
That's all
back
I did.
and
I open it up and let you guys go. Oh well, what are you gonna do? All right. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Let's have a great week. Enjoy your time. PGA Championship this week. It's always a fun time when we get with the majors. Hopefully, Paul, whenever you get back next week, we can try to get out on the golf course and hit it up. But enjoy Austin. Enjoy the food. Enjoy Joe Rogan. That's going to be phenomenal. Very jealous
can't
of you
wait.
for having that.
Can't wait.
Hopefully, you don't hear any bad words.
I'm sure
Yeah.
we will.
you're gonna hear some bad words.
I'm sure there will be some political discourse there as well too. It should be fun.
Yeah,
Enjoy.
I can end it with a joke if you want.
Go ahead.
Oh, here-
Go ahead.
No.
Is this
Tyson
dedicated?
won't like it.
Is this the WNBA thing?
Oh,
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
I thought it was
All
gonna
right.
be Yabba Dabba Doo.
No, it's not golf. It's WNBA related.
Let her
I brought
rip.
up earlier. All right. Well, they brought out a new medication for lesbians with depression.
Oh no.
It's tricoxagen.
And that is on you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Chad. Have a good one, man. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you. We
Y'all
appreciate
never
you.
learn.
Enjoy Austin.
See you guys.
Later.
That's all on you. That is all on you. Oh boy. Oh, and ending it up, we did have news out of F1 that the Imola. I don't know if you sound it pronounced. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Imola Grand Prix has been canceled due to torrential rains. If you have missed it, in northern Italy, they're going through some serious floods. So thoughts and prayers with everybody in the northern Italy area. Hopefully that you guys can get some dryness and let those rains subside. But the F1, it will be packing it up and moving on to the next one. Yeah, Jeremy. Well, I don't know. That's on Jeff. That's on Jeff.
Monaco. What is it? Monaco. What is the
After
next
this
one
one,
they have?
let's find
Yeah.
out. Let's find out. Oh, Jeffrey. When will you learn? Looks like the next one's gonna be Spain,
All right. I saw
and that is
preview
not
for Monaco.
until June 2nd.
I saw a preview for Monaco on ESPN
I take that back.
the other night.
I take that back. It's literally highlighted in a black bold. Monaco is up next, 26. I was gonna say, I thought that felt like a pretty big gap.
Yep. And
There-
ESPN's been hyping it up too, so I'm sure it's going to be very, very involved. It's cool to see F1 get the run and the play though.
They've always had it. They just aired it at different times. And ESPN's all about the celebrity events, right? I mean,
Yeah, but I think you do like that. The Netflix documentary though, I think definitely helped everything out.
the Netflix documentary really catapulted F1. Now I know that there's a lot of the F1 drivers and stuff don't like it because they are there all of the time. But yeah, they kind of catapulted it up for at least from us. And they are trying so hard to push it in the United States because they're just making so much money. I think they made like $1.3 billion in Miami over the weekend, and I get emails every single day asking me to put a deposit down on my tickets for next year, and I just don't know. That's going to do it for us over here. We're rooting for the Celtics tonight over in this household.
Go Heat.
Jeffrey's
I'm
going
riding
for the
with you,
Heat.
Justice.
I'm riding with you, Rachel. We'll get it done. No questions asked. Timothy Buckets is going to be going home with ice on his ankles because they are going to get broke by how many times Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum are going to duke him out. That's right.
Juke him out.
Juke him out, baby. Juke him out. Hope everybody has a great Wednesday.
Be great. Be better than that. Whatever that just was.
Keep playing.